Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Gripe, the show for short, sweet reviews of new release movies, plus the one thing that annoyed me the most. Today we're going to be talking about The Nice Guys, Shane Black's ode to the 1970s that he loves so very much. So Shane Black is one of those guys who, as a writer, has brought us so many wonderful things like Lethal Weapon, Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 4. He did bring us Lethal Weapon 3, but, forgive him for that one. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and definitely this is the movie that, we kind of felt like was going to be the spiritual successor to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But the truth is, Iron Man 3 is kind of Kiss Kiss Iron Man Bang. So, which is kind of weird how that whole thing worked out. Fortunately, we finally got The Nice Guys, which is a movie that stars Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling, and Kim Basinger as a Justice Department figure. So, basic rundown of the story. Here's what it is. Essentially, you've got Russell Crowe, who's this, muscle man, basically for hire, kind of a, think of like a Bud White type character. He basically, girls would hire him to, go beat up, guys who are, stalking him, or, kind of like Deadpool in a way. Or, if somebody needs somebody roughed up, he's the guy to do it. And one of the guys he roughs up is played by Ryan Gosling, who is a private detective, and a very poor private detective at that. That's not to say he's not intelligent, he's just really bad at his job. And he's, an alcoholic, he's trying to, support his, daughter. So when Russell Crowe comes and kicks his ass, basically he's, now like, okay, just gonna kind of putter along and continue doing what he's trying to do. But there was a reason that Russell Crowe kicked his butt, and that was because he got hired by a girl who basically told him that these guys were stalking her, so she wanted Russell Crowe to go and attack him. He does that, and then when he gets back home, he finds that there's two other people who are looking for the girl, and so now Russell Crowe is suspicious, and so instead of, trying to figure things out on his own, because he's more of a muscle man than a detective, he decides to go get Ryan Gosling's help to figure out, okay, who these guys are and what they want to do with Amelia, why they want to chase after this girl. And this takes place in the 70s in LA, so obviously, there's a lot of things about, like the gas crisis, the air crisis, the automakers and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things going around, but he's just trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with this Amelia girl? Why is everybody after her? And as they start to put the pieces together, as they start to track her down, they find out, well, everybody she knows is dying these mysterious deaths. And it seems like the people who are after her might be intent on killing her as well. So the whole thing, ends up, they get to this party, this Hollywood porn party, basically. And this is where they, kind of start to uncover the plot of the story. That there's, some shifty stuff going behind, and Amelia basically is trying to bring down these, big automakers with her, anti-smog, environmental message that she's trying to bring. Well, in the, when they are able to finally, track her down, get her to a safe place, she ends up getting killed. So, spoiler on that one. But, and so, as they're, trying to put the pieces together, they come to find that, the killing itself was very much suspicious, and, the people behind it, they start to put the pieces together, and they uncover who is actually behind it. I'm not going to give it away. I give away that she died, but I'm not going to give away anything else about the story, because I do want you to go see it and see if you can figure it out for yourself. But ultimately what happens is they catch the bad guy, and, they get back to their own lives, but they decide to work together. You got the muscle and you got the sort of brains, and, Ryan Gosling's daughter, who's probably a better detective than either of them, but that's beside the point. So, overall, a very fun movie. It's one of those, like, kind of buddy comedy. I mean, I don't know how to classify this particularly. It's one of those, it could be a comedy, it could be an action movie, it could be a crime movie. I mean, there's so many different, pieces moving. It's a mystery, obviously, trying to figure out who done it, who did what now. There's that part, and it's also a comedy because you have Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling really playing off of each other pretty well. I didn't think they landed every joke as well as they could have. There was a couple of things that were sort of left on the table, I think. But I mean, the dynamic between the two of them is pretty good, because you got Russell Crowe, this kind of like grizzly old, he's been around the block, he knows what's going on. he can sense things, but he can't always, like put his finger on it. But he's actually a pretty moral guy. When I say Bud White, it reminded me of Bud White a lot. Kind of the soft-spoken, moral guy. He didn't have the temper that Bud White had, but and maybe the only reason I keep throwing out these LA Confidential references is because the movie does have a very, very strong LA Confidential vibe, not only because it has Russell Crowe and Kim Basinger, but just because it's LA, it's kind of noirish at times, and, there is this, like, protecting women type of motif that you have Russell Crowe kind of going for. So there definitely was some of that. Not to mention the plot really is kind of reminiscent of, the mystery that we had in LA Confidential. And Ryan Gosling's character is also, kind of reminiscent of these, like, kind of old school detective, not quite a Sam Spade. He doesn't have the cool of a Sam Spade. Definitely, more of like a goofy. He's very 70s. This whole movie is an ode to the 70s, like I said. Not quite a Quentin Tarantino level ode to the 70s, but it's still pretty strong. You can tell Shane Black is a pretty big fan of that. And also, just for the tone of the movie, it certainly sets it pretty well. To have it set in the 70s, it feels kind of like this is the sort of plot you would expect in this, because if we had smartphones and stuff like that, I think this plot would be solved a lot quicker than what we had in this movie. Um, Acting wise, they all do a pretty good job. The girl who plays Ryan Gosling's daughter does a good job as sort of this, like, the innocent foil to, she asked this question, of like both her dad and of Russell Crowe. It's like, are you a bad man? Which is, it's an interesting question in the context of a movie like this, because, Russell Crowe, particularly, he doesn't come across as a bad guy. He's obviously doing some bad stuff. He's beating people up for money, essentially. But that doesn't necessarily make him a bad guy, because the reasons he's doing it, he's not doing it just for, pleasure. He's doing it because, women who are in trouble are coming to him, or somebody else is coming to him with a need. So it's that gray area. I'm not saying beating people up for money is moral, but you could tell he does have kind of a moral aspect to his character. And then you have Ryan Gosling's character, who is not quite as moral. Obviously, he's trying to be a good father as much as he can, but, there's only so much he can do with, his talents. He's he's getting calls from, like, old ladies looking for their husbands who have been dead for years, and are on an urn on a mantle. But he's just getting these calls of, basically he's just in it for the money. He does have an eye for detail, and he's a smart guy, but he's also an alcoholic, which kind of gets him in trouble throughout the movie, especially at the party when he goes tumbling down a hill in the Hollywood Hills. So, you got these two characters that really are driving the movie, plus, the daughter. You have Matt Bomer comes in playing Hitman, and I haven't seen Matt Bomer in a lot of things, so I can't really tell if this is normal for him, but he is creepy as hell. That guy is just really creepy. And in this movie, he kind of, he definitely plays that really well as this, the hitman, Johnny Boy is brought in from, Vegas to, pretty much be the villain in this story. Now, he's not the big bad, but he is certainly, one of, those, contentious villains. There's also Keith David plays, kind of a thug character, and he has his red suit on that's just like, it's so reminiscent of something that you would see in the 70s. Like, I love the 70s environment of this movie. It really did make it, really fun. And just the kind of the attitude that's in the movie is very reminiscent of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which, you could argue is probably Shane Black's best movie in terms of, it's not a sequel to Lethal Weapon, because, I love the Lethal Weapon movies, but, they all sort of blend together in a way. Whereas Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was this really unique, different type of movie that Shane Black put together, and it's a fantastic movie. And I was really hoping the Nice Guys would sort of grab that, the feeling from that movie and, bring it right back. And they did. I think they really did capture that same spirit. Obviously a different plot, but kind of the same, goofiness with the crime, with the mystery, and all that. So, certainly in Shane Black's wheelhouse, as opposed to something like Iron Man 3, where it doesn't work. That's a different discussion entirely. But So, I mean, writing wise, I mean, the story is not super complicated. I mean, once the plot unfolds, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I can see that. It's not super, you know, integrate. There's not a lot of depth to the story. It's pretty much just a surface mystery of like, follow the clues and then you'll get the final reveal at the end, which will lead me to my key gripe, but I'll be there in a sec. Um, and I mean but I mean at the same time it is a buddy movie too. I mean it's reminiscent of movies like 48 Hours where you have this mismatch of two characters who definitely don't want to be together, who are out and have like a time limit to really solve a mystery, solve a what's going on, and get to the end, hopefully get to the end result without getting themselves killed, which in this movie they do. They manage to get to the end without getting themselves killed, but there's certainly a body count in their wake. So, what is my key gripe though? My key gripe is actually about the twist. Like, I'm not going to give away the twist, but I will give away that there is a scene in the movie that like only a few moments after that you get kind of the twist. But my problem is with that scene, they give it away like so freely and so haphazardly. Like I appreciate movies where the twist has you until it happens. You know, there are very few movies that have the stamina of an Old Boy, where the twist is kept until the very end, until that last moment, and that's a sign of a great twist. Now this movie is not like an M. Night Shyamalan movie where it's like the twist, there has to be ooh what's a twist, but at least you still have to have that big reveal when the tide shifts, when you find out what's really going on. Unfortunately, there's a scene in this movie where they basically are asked by somebody for a favor. They're like, can you take this suitcase of money to to the people, to some people, basically. I don't even remember who she was telling them to go to, but they're like, oh sure, whatever. But that scene it's mind-boggling that they don't hide it at all. It's telegraphed the entire way. Like when she's called, she's like, "Can you take this money for me?" I mean, The Big Lebowski did it better, and The Big Lebowski was supposed to be a farce, whereas this one is, still supposed to be somewhat you know, a real crime mystery. Like, I mean, it's supposed to be like a real drama in a sense, whereas The Big Lebowski, that movie is just meant to be goofy. This one, to have that, it really like I just kind of had that really you just give it away like that. You're not going to give us a little bit more time to kind of you're going to milk the twist a little bit. Now, granted, they kind of pulled right into it right after that. There wasn't a whole lot of time to between that and when you start to see, okay, now we know what's happening. Now we know how it's all unfolding. But unfortunately, when they give it away so freely like that, I hate that. I hate it when they don't, when they, whether it's, like a little, look or something, like I think back to, like, Die Hard 2 or something. I know I'm really reaching on this one. But in Die Hard 2, there's a moment where they just, like, they give away the betrayal so easily. It's just like, oh yeah, this guy, he seems cool. Although, yeah, why do they have the same exact tape on their guns as the guys who are, shooting, the guys they're supposed to be killing? Very strange that would happen. Oh, right, that's because they're they're in cahoots. Sorry for spoiling Die Hard 2. I didn't mean to do that. I know it's been a few years though, so give yourself some time. But I mean, to give away a twist so freely like that really bugs me, because it means that they're so anxious to get to it that they don't give you the chance to like really soak it in. That's why movies like Old Boy work when it comes to twists, whereas this one not so much. Not to say you couldn't figure out even before that. There's other scenes that you could probably put together and say, oh, I could definitely see that happening. But you don't necessarily know the why. And, I mean, it didn't give away the why so much, but it did definitely give away the who and the what. It definitely gave that away. Didn't give away the motive, which ultimately, I mean, you could kind of figure out on your own, but it ultimately doesn't come until later in the movie. So overall, though, very enjoyable movie, and I highly recommend it. You know, Russell Crowe definitely getting up there in terms of years and his weight, but he still has just that like Russell Crowe charm that we've come to love from movies like The Insider and Gladiator and Beautiful Mind. The stuff that really made him you know the icon that he is. And then Ryan Gosling, aside from being like super sexy man, he's also kind of a funny, goofy, sexy man, which is it it definitely works in this role. There's not a lot of gravitas in this movie. There's not a lot of like serious, like deep moments from anybody, but at the same time, there doesn't necessarily have to be because it's a buddy movie. It is a Lethal Weapon type of movie of, the the straight guy and the goofy guy just kind of shaking it up and making it work somehow, which is exactly what they do here in The Nice Guys. So that's my review of The Nice Guys. Overall, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10, which means pretty good movie. Definitely entertaining, something I'll want to watch again at some point. It obviously has a few. It leaves a lot on the table, though. Unfortunately, like in terms of the jokes, there's a few jokes that just land flat, and then a few that it's like there's something that they could do there. But then there's some other jokes that are just a riot. So they do leave some on the table, and the writing, just giving away that twist. It boils my potato, I'll tell you what. So you can use that phrase, by the way. So 7.5 out of 10. So very good movie. Definitely recommend it. So that is my thoughts on Shane Black's movie The Nice Guys, starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. If you disagree with me, tell me in the comment section whether you liked it more or liked it less than I did, and tell me what you think. Get some dialogue going here once in a while. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time on Key Gripe.